Hi, and welcome to Hoffman's Hot Seat. I'm Tom Hoffman with One-to-One Media, coming to you today from the Gartner Customer 360 event here in San Diego. And I'm joined today by Brian Shepard, President of Customer Strategy and Technology Solutions at TeleTech. And today, Brian and I will be talking about what people are buzzing about here at the Gartner event. Brian, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So Brian, what are you hearing that's hot? What are people talking about here?
You know, I think there's a lot of things, Tom. I think one thing that we really hear a lot about is customer experience, but what we see is everybody's wrestling with what that actually means and what do they do about it. And one big theme is how do you move from strategy of customer segmentation, how do you think about serving the customers in a different way, down to actually practical solutions on how they can transform their business and how they can serve customers. And what most of these large enterprises are dealing with is how do you get out of the boardroom and down to a practical solution to do something different. That's a big topic.
Yeah. So as you've had conversations with people about this, are there any examples that spring to mind of some of the challenges that companies are wrestling with right now?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we saw, for example, one of the large financial services companies, MasterCard, they're in the process of completely transforming their company that says we used to serve 100 of the largest banks as their kind of customer, and what they say now is we're trying to sell to merchants and retailers and small, medium-sized businesses and governments. So how do we actually think about the definition of a customer in a completely different way? So what do we do about that? We know we need to be customer focused. We know we need to transform our strategy, but where do we get started? Right. And this is a recurring theme, whether it's a financial services company, a cable company, a large wireless, an automotive company. Everybody's saying, how do we get from strategy to execution in a way that's going to move our business?
Sure. I know one of the challenges that many companies wrestle with respect to big data is which data sets to use.
Yeah.
And can you speak about that or offer some recommendations?
Obviously the whole big data, but I'll specifically say, what do you do about social is one of the other big themes that keeps coming up. And I would say there's almost two different angles of that. On the social side, people are saying, I know I need to respond to customers, whether that be on Twitter or Facebook or others, but that's not a social strategy. So what a lot of companies are coming to us and talking about is, how do we actually use social as a channel either for improved service? How do you then move from a satisfied customer on the service side that maybe they're disgruntled? How do you treat that off the social network, and then once they're satisfied, push it back up? How do you use technology to do it? But then once you've got a satisfied customer through a social media or digital marketing kind of area, how do you move to more of a revenue generation sales side?
Right.
And so this is a big one that we see around social, which is just one aspect of analytics and data.
Can you point to examples of companies that TeleTech has worked with where there were particular challenges in marketing where analytics and customer data have been applied?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple. I mean, one way to think about it is GM. So one of our large customers, and they've been customers of ours for a long time, on their retail side, they have their loyalty program, their GM card, and one of the things they came to us for is said, how could we use the analytics and the data we get about our consumer to try to figure out share of garage, to try to predict through analytics when a customer might be likely to go out and be ready in a window to purchase a new vehicle, and then how do we use that data to say what offer, who to target, when to offer, and how that's then going to drive a downstream result, and that's parent company GM that's trying to use that data analytics, and then how do we provide that information down to the dealer level, right, who can then go execute it. So I mean, that's just one example of, if you'd asked me before, you know, going back 5, 6, 7 years, would I have thought of GM when I thought about analytics? I wouldn't have, and yet they're one of the more progressive companies doing some pretty innovative things to really transform their business.
Sure, and along with opportunities for sharing customer data between, say, a dealer on the sales side and also with service.
Right, yeah. Right. I mean, another example of what we see on the data side of how to use it is, how do you get it, what people I think are really talking about on the data side right now is real-time aspect. How do you actually get either structured data coming out of your billing systems, your customer CRM systems, your mainframe database, but then also how do you take unstructured data that's coming through the social and through lots of different channels, including when they call into the call center, when they actually respond to some type of sales or marketing campaign. So that combination of structured data and unstructured to then try to identify. The real question is real-time actionable insights to try to get this sense of what a customer wants almost before they want it. So we talked a lot in one of the breakouts about the psychic brands that can actually identify ahead of time and find ways to make customers say, wow, how did you know that? How did you know I need that? And we're starting to see, I'd say, the early stages of companies actually deploying against it. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, sure. I know that a lot of companies also struggle with the silos of data that exist between different functions and different channels. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of perhaps steps that can be taken to start addressing those?
Yeah, I think what and I wouldn't say this is one of the hottest themes, but I think it's going to be in the next couple of years, is the whole concept of omni-channel. Right now, some people are talking about omni-channel, but what that really means is we're a CRM channel, or we're a chat, or we're a social channel. People will pull out their cards and they'll have solutions that hit any one of those. Yeah. What very few companies are thinking about right now is how do you actually have a technology platform, a business process plan that actually will go multi-channel. So if a customer or consumer wants to interact with your brand through the social or through the self-service experience, that's great, but what happens if they don't find what they want in that environment? Then can you move them to a chat? Can you move them to a one-click button where they could actually get a live agent? What happens if your live agent has a hold time? Could we actually get a call back and be able to interact in that way? And what happens if you want to move between those different channels and different employment groups or live agents in the company don't have the ability to respond or see the history? And so what we see is a lot of a growing demand will be a true multi-channel, all the history, inline conversation that takes the channel that the customer prefers with the lowest cost, easiest way to solve the problem. Right. I think that's a big one that's going to be coming.
It'll be interesting to see how things play out over the next few years.
It will. It's exciting times.
It is. So Brian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.